Welcome to Just Minding My Business. I hope you are having an amazing day. And our guest today has a serious story of transitioning from a professional musician to manu- to a manufacturing entrepreneur. And today we welcome Tom Kubiniec, who is the founder and CEO of SecureIt, which is a US based manufacturing company that designs and produces innovative, secure storage systems for consumers, military, and institutional clients. Wow. Welcome, Tom.
Sounds neat when you read it.
So, how did we get from
Yeah.
professional musician to a manufacturing entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, I graduated high school. I didn't go to college and I played guitar. I was at that point I was 6 to 8 hours a day, every day, just focused on being the best guitarist I could be. I graduated in 1980. I was playing in bands when I was 16. And in 1984, somebody had heard one of my demos at Guitar Player magazine, and they did an article on me as the one of the best unknown guitar players out there. I was a heavy metal, rock guitarist, and phone started ringing. I moved to California with the plans of being a rock star, and I developed tendonitis shortly after I moved to California, and it was gone. It was My career was over before it really started. Had a couple of tough years just trying to figure out, what am I going to do? I had no other skills. And I took a job telemarketing typewriter ribbons and liftoff tapes. Remember back in those days?
Yes, I did.
Because they would hire anybody. And I was so bad at it. But I worked hard, but I was so bad at sales. They moved me to a non-sales position. But I had friends that were working at another company, selling computer supplies, telemarketing, making good money. And I quit that job and I took a straight commission job selling and said, either I produce or I die. I mean, I didn't want to just get a paycheck. And instead of playing guitar 6 hours a day, I immersed myself in the world of sales. It took me a couple of years, but I became a very good salesman. 2 years after taking that job, I quit and started a telemarketing business in my apartment and built that over 5 years we had 18 sales reps. It was a nice little business. I sold to my partner, started Greenline Data in 1994. In late 90s, Greenline Data was a telemarketing company selling computer supplies. I got into the internet and started making websites and just dabbling. This was early internet. And I had a website, taperack.com, that started getting a lot of traffic, and we sourced the big metal racks for holding backup tapes. And we became one of the largest sellers of racking systems for backup tapes for big companies. Um, this was late 90s, early 2000s. That morphed into laptop storage when the HIPAA laws came out, where all the hospitals, all of a sudden overnight, they had to lock all patient data, and they were scrambling. So we sourced out these cabinets for locking laptops and hard drives where they could lock them, charge them, update them on networks, and became a large seller of laptop storage. A guy called me in 2001 and said, "Can you guys store an MP5?" I'm like, "Sure." "What's an MP5?" I didn't know. And he goes, "Well, it's a small submachine gun." I started laughing. I go, "Who is this?" And he was with the FBI. And we talked for about 20 minutes. I said, "I'm sure we could do it. Give me a couple of weeks. I want to dig into this a little bit." I started doing research. This is before Google. This was back in the Yahoo days. Research wasn't as easy to do. But I kept finding references that the military was struggling. They were transitioning from the M16, which is a standard battle rifle, to the M4, which is really what's a weapon system. At the time, I didn't know anything about this, but it just intrigued me. I was never in the military, but the Gulf Wars were started, things were going, and I was like, could I do something to help warfighters? Help these guys are risking their lives, and I got into weapon storage. I called the company that made my laptop cabinets. They were out of Canada, and I knew the owner well. We were good friends. I said, "Steve, I got a crazy idea. What do you think of making weapon racks?" And he started laughing. He said, "Tom, I'm already working on a project with the Canadian government. They had the same problem." So we compared notes and made some weapon racks. We started selling those to the military. It was a Canadian rack made to Canadian specs. It really wasn't right for America. And in 2007, 6 years of really learning how to deal with contracting. I knew nothing about the military. It was a steep learning curve. We won a contract we BS'd our way into a contract with U.S. Army Special Forces Command, where we were hired to tour all their armories, survey all of them, and prepare a report for the command as to why they were failing. So I spent 18 months on the road. I spent a day in each armory, interviewed the armor, and watched and documented everything they were doing. And at the end of that, towards the end of that contract, I came up with the idea for the SecureIt tactical modular weapon storage platform. And we did the design work, got the system built. At the end of that contract, that was 2009. By 2011, we were the primary supplier to the U.S. military. It just took off. And it's funny because I did all this, became the main, I was the guy, the gun storage guru guy, they called me back then. And I'd never owned a firearm. I'd never, it was really interesting because everybody was approaching this problem, looking at weapon racks and trying to fix what they had to make it work better. I had no idea. I looked at it differently as, they're saying you're thinking outside the box. I'm like, guys, I didn't even know there was a box. I just looked at it completely outside saying the problem, these are the problems. How do we solve these problems? And at the time there were other competitors, big companies going after trying to solve this problem. And they did it with these modular weapon racks with all these different brackets and components that could do anything. And we got it down to one simple moving part that could store any gun from a small MP5 up to shoulder launch weapon systems. So our racks were sustainable, meaning once you have my rack, you never need to change it. You can just simply adjust it. And they loved it. And the company took off. Sequestration hit. It was in the Obama years. It wasn't an Obama problem. It was a congressional problem. And people may not remember, but they had this, if the Congress didn't get the budget balanced by 2012, sequestration was going to take effect, which was forced military cutbacks that were so severe. At the time they put it in place, these cutbacks are so severe, it's going to force us to do our jobs. Well, they didn't. The cutbacks happened, and we almost went out of business. We went from, at the time, probably 15, 20 person company doing significant business to 3 people. I laid off everybody. I sold everything. At that point, I had a plane. I was a pilot. I was flying all over the Northeast, and I sold everything I owned. And my wife and I were looking at little farmhouses, going to sell our lake house, just everything, because we were dead broke. And I started thinking about the consumer market, because the problem in the military was we were the pros from Dover, but if Congress turned off the money, we were dead in the water. So we looked at going into consumer products and took our military system and adapted it to smaller modular consumer products, and it just blew up. We made Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies in America in 2018 and 2020. And consumer products is now 90% of what we do. We still market the company as a defense contractor that also sells civilian products, but civilian is the bulk of my business. And it's been, it's been a really good ride. It's been so much fun. I love working with the military. These guys they're just amazing guys. They risk their lives so that we have our freedom. Yes. And, we look at it as, what can we do to give back? So we do that. We just started SecureIt Soldier Support, which is a charitable branch of SecureIt. And we provide a lot of assistance for, through the VA hospital system for at-risk soldiers, guys who are on the edge. And we don't do directly with soldiers. We work with the VA to give them everything they need to help what I'll call the fringe, or just the soldiers that are really struggling. We just launched that about a year and a half ago, and we're scaling it right now. And the company right now, we're growing. Things are doing well. The military all of a sudden is heating up, and there's been not a lot of spend in the military, but we're on the cusp of some major contracts to basically rebuild the U.S. military armory system. So it's an exciting time right now at SecureIt. So that's the That's the 5-minute version. Does that work?
Wow, that's amazing. And it sounds like every step of the way, you didn't know what you didn't know,
No.
but you was willing to find out.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, in life and everything I do is sometimes you have to jump off the cliff in
Mm,
order to see the place you're going to land. And I always tell everybody, just because we don't know how to do it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
that's right.
Let's start the project and we'll figure out the unknowns as we go. It can be messy doing that, but I see so many people in business, they want it to be so planned and so structured. And I'm completely the opposite. I'm like, no, let's commit to this. Let's just do it. And you go, but Tom, we got this. It's okay. Let's roll. And when your back's against the wall, you solve problems. I look at this whole consumer market thing. Why didn't I go into consumer products in 2006? The company would have been massively larger. And it wasn't until my back was against the wall. I laid off everybody and I was about to sell my house. I had 3 little kids at the time and it was tough, but it was at that time when your back's against the wall that
Yeah.
you start looking at things differently in this idea of consumer products. I don't know why we'd never thought of it. The military market for the last 25 years broken down works out to about $20 million in business a year is what they're spent, 20 to 30 million a year. The consumer market is 800 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about it. We're still a very small player in the consumer market, but we are, firearms industry is they're struggling a bit right now. We're still just gaining market share. We're still growing. People are learning about a whole different way of securing firearms, and we're winning this battle right now. It feels pretty good.
Yes, and you where you supposed to be. And a lot of times, you know, like you said, why didn't you think of it before? Because it wasn't time.
Yeah, and you're also my back wasn't against the wall. Again,
Yes.
when you've got stuff keeping you busy, or you've got I talked to a lot of people about this. When you look at assistance programs, when sequestration hit, if the government had come in and said, Tom, look, we realize this is tough. We're going to do a grant program so you can keep your people employed. We're going to give you this stuff so you guys can survive this. Well, we'd be a $4 million company, but we didn't have any options. It was either figure this out or you're going to go bankrupt. And it was stressful, but it's giving people the chance to solve their own problems, even though it's hard. You got to do it when you're raising kids. You can do everything for your kids. It doesn't help them. Sometimes you got to say, figure it out.
Yes.
Figure it out. And it's not easy.
Yes.
And in life, kids is a great analogy because you hate to watch your kids struggle. But boy, every time I jump in and help, ultimately it benefits me. I feel better, but it doesn't help them.
I agree with you 100%. And a lot of times, it separates the girls from the women and the boys from the men.
Absolutely. It's or the development, helping people, when you allow anybody to struggle through a problem and solve it, they gain a level of confidence that is lost forever if you do it for them. Now, we offer assistance, but my assistance is questions. I don't tell them what to do. I ask them, what do you think? Well,
Yeah.
and that's, people come to me. I'm the owner, the CEO of the company with a problem. It's so easy. Tom, we got this. What do we do? Well, what you want to do is, and I stop myself every day saying, what do you think we should do? What do you think is the best option? And I'll say, that sounds pretty good to me. Do it. Or if I don't like what they're saying, I say, well, what about this? Oh, and I let them keep feeding me till it's like, all right, I think you got a good plan there. Why don't you run with that? Let me know. Run with it for 3 weeks. Let me know where you're at. And
Yeah.
it's
It's a big difference.
it feels slow because I move at 100 miles an hour. I move too fast, and I like to do that. I like to keep a lot of balloons in the air. I like to be really, really active. So it's really hard for me to pull that back, but it's critical for when you're leading people or you're looking for to get other people to see more in themselves.
Yes,
Give them a chance, and also give them a chance to fail.
yes. And as a parent, it's an instinct
it
to
is.
want to help, want to provide all of the answers. It's just, and to turn that around, it's
Yeah.
difficult.
It's I've made more mistakes as a parent than as a leader because you're so invested with your kids. And if it doesn't work out, you can't let your kids go.
Right.
But it's the closer they are to you, the harder it is sometimes. But it's really critical to set those boundaries, I think.
It is. So, Tom, if companies or people want to buy your products, how do they do so?
They just, I mean, Google SecureIt, Google me. We're all over the web. We're all over social media. We've got a pretty big digital presence. We are an e-com company. We are direct to consumer. We do not sell through stores. We tried selling through normal retail distribution, but my systems are so different than a traditional gun safe. When I put them in a store, just looking at them, nobody knows what they are. In the digital world, I can use video and images and show people what this system can do.
Mm-hmm.
And our first foray into retail going retail products was selling through all the big stores, Bass, all the big gun shops, and all the big sporting goods stores. And it really didn't work well. When we went direct to consumer, that's when things really started taking off.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Wow. That's amazing. So let's talk about your marketing strategies, because I see you talk about eliminating marketing departments led to 66% of YOY growth. So
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So, and this is like CEO failure 101. And nobody's made more mistakes in SecureIt than me. I'm the head guy for making mistakes. But we have a everybody that works here lives under this idea: try it, fail fast, try it. But if it's not going right, course correct. But don't stop. Don't stop and plan forever. Go, move forward. If you're wrong, it's okay. Say, come back. Hey, Tom, I'm wrong. This isn't working. All right. Well, what is working? And figure it out. And so marketing wise, we came out of the gate and took off, and then our sales flat, and we got to a point where we're growing, and everybody's like, Tom, you're the CEO. You've got to hire people to do these things. Which, as a leader, you need to get people. My job is not to do daily tasks. My job is to make decisions and get people to see more in themselves. And it's easy to get wrapped up in this stuff. So I kept stepping back, and I started hiring outside marketing people, and our sales just leveled off. And we had at one point a 8-man marketing team, and these were high paid, high value people. We just weren't getting results. And I went through a few iterations, and I got to a point where I moved my number 2 in the company. I said, look, you're running the day-to-day business. My background, I'm a salesman, I'm a marketer. I took over. I now run the marketing department, and I got rid of everybody just to me. And we're bringing in, I've got my son who went to school for marketing. He's going to be joining me this summer. And I've got a daughter who is at SCAD for graphics and motion media, and she's going to come in doing video work for us. But yeah, for me, it's identifying that my strongest, what am I best at? Marketing. What do I like doing? Marketing. So why am I trying to be the CEO? Yeah, I own the company. That's my job. I'm the CEO. But so I moved my head of ops into really the leadership of the company, and he's really good at it. And I let him, he and I, we talk daily, but I stay out. I stay out of all the ops. I stay out of all those meetings. I see the reports, and if you got a problem, you want to bring me in, that's fine. And I focus on how do we represent our brand to the consumer, and I enjoy it. It's a little unconventional, but most of what I do is fairly unconventional, I think.
True. And probably, I mean, you've got the you know the business like the back of your hand. You know the
Yeah.
struggles, you know everything about it, and that makes you the best marketer
I think
because
so. And also my background in telemarketing, telemarketing, you're making 150. We were doing B2B, and this was back at a time when telemarketing actually worked and it wasn't the way it is now. And, over the course of that career, I've probably made 500,000 phone calls and talked and you're just, you get so good, especially on the phone of just with only your ear, understanding where people are at emotionally. And that's because that's the key to driving sales is an emotional reaction. And I think it's, sometimes I change too fast. Sometimes I don't let things go long enough, but it's really, I have a good feel um, for what people are thinking when they look at our brand. And I also look at things like marketing, things like, company image, web presence. I look at that as a knife. That's you just my job is to keep sharpening the blade. So
yeah,
I'm always we never like, everything we do, nothing is done and sits there for 6 months. Everything we do is like, okay, the numbers look good. Okay, how can we improve this? Well, if we try, so I'm constantly, on a daily basis, I'm tweaking and changing and doing little nuanced things. The beauty of today is there's so many tools that allow you to A/B test things. There's between
yes.
AI and all the different things. It's for me, it's getting easier.
Yes, yes, same here because that's what we do marketing and
Mhm.
with the all the tools available like you, I'm back and I'm from the telemarketing age.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I know all about that.
Yeah. I kind of feel like we're almost back to the wild, wild west. When the internet first came out, it was crazy. Nobody knew what was going to happen. It was the wild,
True.
wild west in marketing. And I feel with where we're at right now, certainly in my industry, in our area, these are big dinosaur companies. And they're investing in their tools, their AI, all those things, but we can move so fast. We're so nimble, and we've always kept it that way. Which you run into problems doing that sometimes. Um, Certainly, product development, you've got to be very patient and pragmatic and work through because the development costs can be really high. But um, right now, the future looks bright. The We're looking at massive growth over the next 3 years. And
Mm,
I'm excited about it because we've had 3 years of relatively flat sales. And
mhm.
but there's let your listeners know there's and this comes back to my music days when I was practicing. And there's playing and practicing. Playing is playing songs. Practicing is a metronome and just doing scales. And I just was a practiceaholic. But you work at something really hard for weeks, and all of a sudden one day you're miles better. So I always tell people practice and work and building is linear. Your results come in tiers. Like we're doing all these things in marketing and we won't see results. All of a sudden, like our sales really aren't moving. All of a sudden, like in 3 months, we're 15% more in sales. And people say, wow, what did we do? It's like overnight we're doing it. I said, no, 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 no. The results came in a spike or in a big jump. But the work to get there is a linear growth path.
True.
So I always tell people, like, you start on doing something, don't get discouraged. You gotta do this long enough for that pop to happen. You got to watch your numbers because sometimes you're looking at numbers that like are not going the right way. You can say, okay, we got to tweak this, but um, you work hard at something in a linear, hardworking fashion, but your results come. And most companies' growth, they always show a growth of like this straight line going up at an angle. But if you dig into it, it's always steps. You know,
Hmm.
success happens in steps. Effort happens. Good effort is a linear path of just effort, but results happen in big jumps. That's been my experience.
Yes,
And
and I have to agree with you. It might look overnight to the outside world, but it's typically never an overnight
right,
activity.
that's the thing is people on the outside, they look at what you're doing and say, "My gosh, that was amazing." I said, "No, no, no, no. We've been doing this for 2 years. It just took that long for the snowball to all of a sudden start getting big fast."
Yeah.
And I've been blessed with and it's taken time, but we're very good at identifying people that are SecureIt people. And we bring people on board. We're very good at onboarding, and the staff that I have, I can think of no business that has a group of people like we have. It's just an amazing group of people that there's so much above and beyond. I get so many people coming in Monday morning saying, "Oh, like with all this stuff they did over the weekend." I don't ask them. I never ask somebody to work over the weekend. I never ask somebody to go. I said, if they want to, that's on them. But they're so excited. Our mission for the SecureIt is to make sure every gun in America is properly secured. If we're successful in our mission, we're going to prevent a lot of accidental deaths. There's a lot of things that happen in the firearms world that we believe we can stop. And that's the underlying. And in the military, it's supporting the warfighter just to make these guys safer and better prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's a wonderful mission to have. Safety. It's all about safety, for sure. So, personal discipline and performance. The role of physical resilience in executive decision making. What does that look like for you?
It's when you look at success in business, and I've talked about this to a lot of people, I think the number one thing is discipline. Mm-hmm. It's not smarts, it's not experience. It's the discipline to do what needs to be done when you don't want to do it. And for me, it's, I'm up at 4:00 every morning. I like getting up early. Yeah.
I do too.
And I go, and sometimes I get up and I don't want to go work out. I don't want to go do these things, my routines. And I say, no, I'm going to maintain this discipline. And I do a morning workout. I've got a whole routine I do that just prepares me for the day. And at the end of every day, I've always structured my home business life so I have about a 20 to 30-minute drive to and from my office. I don't listen to music or news. It's just, that's my time. I drive in and I mentally work through my day. At the end of the day, I just drive home and I review all my interactions, all my meetings, all the people I talk to, the successes. And I'm very critical with myself of the things, like the conversations that didn't go well. And, as anybody who's a manager or a leader, even just a line worker, you've got to be able to review your day and call yourself out for your failures and say, you know what? Next time I'm going to do that different. I can't take back a bad meeting, but I can certainly say next time, or I'll go in the next day and I'll pull somebody aside and say, look, we had a conversation yesterday. I just want to tell you, I made a big mistake in that conversation and I handled it poorly. And it's not because I wanted to, it's just, I'd never done this before. So, and in those conversations, they're so appreciative that when a leader sits them down and says, look, I was wrong. And I said, I want you to take your idea and run with it. I think you've got, it's, those moments don't happen often. They used to happen more often, but
and that's being vulnerable, letting people know that you're human.
I'm a member of a Vistage group. I don't know if you know, Vistage it's a global organization, but I've got a Vistage group in Albany, New York. We meet once a month, and it's 12 CEOs of medium to larger companies, and we always talk about it. One of the strongest, greatest strengths or traits is being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. When you can do that, you get buy-in. Everybody knows that I'm not perfect. Yeah. And if they think, and in our company, if they think I'm nuts, they say, Tom, that's crazy. That's crazy stupid, man. And I got no problem. I always tell guys, look, as I tell everybody that works for me, I'm going to go in a vacuum of information. I'm going to go with my idea and I'm going to do it really fast. I said, the problem is I make mistakes. If you think that what I'm talking about is a problem, interrupt me and say, Tom, stop. Are you considering these things? And I said, look, I have no ego attached to what I do. I want results. Results are what ultimately we all want. And too many people get wrapped up in having to be right or having to be whatever they're trying to be. And it's, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Not at all. Not at all. That is the what matters is, did you get results?
Yeah.
And it's like, and a lot of people do focus on being right. And that's just,
No, I've got the luxury of being wrong so much that I have no problem laughing at myself. And, it's my whole path in business has been so crazy because it was, I was a guitar player with no experience. I've never worked in the corporate world. As a kid, I worked on an onion farm. I drove a cab. I worked in a canning factory. I've had every job you could imagine to support myself as a musician. And when the business started becoming successful, started doing things, I was so over my skis. I had no idea what I was doing. But joining groups like Vistage, and I'm a big believer in asking for help. And
Yes.
I've worked with tons of business coaches, and I seek outside help all the time
Yes.
because no one person has all the answers.
You're
And
absolutely right.
there's no problem. I think it's very beneficial. I've had hired people, consultants brought people in where I've disagreed with what they said. And I said, but I gain things from the interaction. But other times they're like, other people will see a side of you or a side of the problem that you're like, wow, I never considered that. And it just
Mhm.
totally changes your perspective. So it's too many people operate in, I don't know if it's an ego bubble or just a fear bubble, but they operate in a bubble of this is my business, this is my job, this is what I'm doing, and I got to figure this out. And if you pick your head up and look around and just ask,
Yes.
I think we live in a world where when somebody stumbles, the guy behind them will help them.
We
And
do.
that's the world we live in. I see it all the time. And the same thing happens if you're struggling with something business wise. Just pick your head up, look around, and ask.
Yep. I mean,
And
and I do it all the time. Like Home Depot, if I go to Home Depot or Lowe's, that is definitely not my lane. I
yeah,
will
that's
find,
yeah. You'll see me Christmas shopping for my wife, seeking help big time. Yeah.
yeah, and I'll have no problem finding somebody to help me. And it's like they love it
Yep.
when you ask questions. People love it when you ask questions.
Right. When somebody can offer you help, especially people around here know me as the CEO of this company, and we're known, and we've had enough growth in Syracuse to where we're kind of a known business here, and they kind of get a kick out of it sometimes. I'm just like, how do I handle it? They're like, why are you asking me? I said, because you have a unique perspective that I don't have. It's
Yeah, it's just so it's yeah, it's still people out there that are genuinely helpful.
I
You
think so. I think life is about um, experiences and human interaction,
yes,
and
yes, it
that's
is.
I think anything we can do to foster more interaction, and certainly nowadays with social media, um, I mean, we use social media for marketing heavily, but I don't use social media. I mean, I do a little bit of personal stuff, and it's really more keeping in touch with true friends. But
Yes.
this idea of like posting pictures on Instagram to look cool, I'm just like, no, I just don't think I'll.
No.
And we all fall. I mean, I get my phone out in the morning. If I start scrolling through stuff, you can spend an hour so fast.
Who you telling?
And so my policy now for me is I used to do emails and things in the morning, and I don't. I make a cup of gourmet coffee. I mean, I grind my beans. I make a gourmet. It takes about 15 minutes, and I sit quietly. If it's summertime, I'll go outside and just sit quietly, enjoy my coffee with
Mhm.
no inputs, and
Yes.
then I walk in and start my day. And
Yes.
people, the other thing I'll share with your listeners, I hear this a lot. I've got a lot of friends in business who are getting hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. They're getting buried, and people are shocked. I average 12 emails a day. That's it.
Wow.
And I have a very strict policy here. You never CC me on an email. I said, don't like, we're sending out a big proposal. It's due on Friday. Proposal's going out Thursday afternoon. Do not CC me. Somebody, a new guy, send a proposal, CC me on it, and I call him right away. Why'd you CC me on it? Well, I wanted you to know it went out. You told me it was going to go out. I said, look, don't CC me to let me know you're doing your job. Just do your job. If you have a question, send me an email, call me, text me, whatever you want to do. We'll answer the question. But do not
Yeah.
CC me on stuff. And I'm just really hard on that because I hate having a screen full of crap that just doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
And
I
I
hate
see a
that
lot of
too.
business friends. I got to know a lot of people in business that spend 2 hours every day on email. And
Yeah.
that's, I'm not doing anything. I mean, my time is spent on creating ideas. And that's what I want to do.
Yes. Wow, Tom, this has been an amazing conversation, but to say the least. And again, how do consumers connect with you?
It's, again, with us, gun storage, gun safes, Google the word SecureIt. We're all over the web. You can Google my name, the Kubiniec, Kubiniec. There's only one Kubiniec family in the world, so I'm related to every single one of them. But with that last name, I'm too easy to find. I gotta live a pretty clean life because if I do something wrong, everybody's gonna know it.
Wow, this has been a delightful time with you, Tom, and I look forward to doing this again. And thank you so much for taking time out.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it's been a fun conversation. I really appreciate it.
it. Yes, and we appreciate you too, audience. Thank you so much.